Hey guys, what's up? A big number of players ask me how should we play against King's Fianchetto that begins with first move g3 by white. And as I was coach of ex-world junior champion and famous grandmaster Alexander Ipatov, once we analyzed for black variation against Nimzo Larsen opening first move b3, and Ipatov was the one who actually told me about a5 for black. Well, I just thought about the King's Fianchetto and I said, why shouldn't we try h5, just doing the same kind of thing? This kingside Fianchetto could be quite a tough, boring and solid opening for white, and this kind of h5 crazy moves can do a lot of harm to those kind of players because they don't like aggressive stuff, they don't like unusual openings, they don't like positions where you play like very original type of games, and basically h5 could be a very good answer against that. I just want to help you that this g3 and h5 wing attack by black could be very similar to one of the variations in English defense. So c4 e5, and after g3, recently I saw an article written by I can't remember the name of the guy, but that was very nice one with the h5 and h4 by black. Looks very interesting. Could do a lot of harm to that bishop on g2 and can set up sort of unstandard type of game, especially for white players. After g3 h5, I have to tell you that I played more than 200 games so far. I did a small research in my games and my results are very strong. After g3 h5, there are like plenty of variations, so get ready for a very interesting lecture full of absolutely unknown or never seen analysis and with very attractive lines. This variation could be used for, like in blitz games, bullet games, rapid chess. And if you play against somebody who really likes boring type of positions, then you can even go for this type of approach in tournament game. So after g3 h5, of course that we should be expecting like bishop g2 by most of guys, or just knight f3. Searching some games and to check who played and what's like the highest rated game by black players that was given by black actually here. I only found one interesting game between Anthony Miles, who had white, and Nick DeFirmian, but I had a feeling that the game was pre-arranged draw. In the game was h4, and here I have like three options for you. For example, e5 is absolutely the best because if somebody plays on the wing, you should react in the center, but then you should say, why don't you play against first g3 move e5? Because we don't want to play like that. We just want to provoke them to do h4, to do something kind of weakening by them as well. And then you just want to go with the c5 move. After like bishop g2, I like to place my bishop on c5. Most of good players just do e3, trying to minimize the activity of that bishop. You do knight c6 to prevent d4, and they do knight e2 to play d4 at all costs. Surprising thing comes now, because when we play d5, d4, I usually confuse all my opponents with bishop b6. So I sack the pawn. So after d takes, knight takes, and people usually take it for granted, like, okay, he played a bad opening with h5, it's time to already win a pawn and win the game. Well, it's not like that, believe me. You play queen e7, we're threatening knight f6, bishop g4, long castles afterwards. It's extremely difficult position for white. Even though most of them, like gladly take on d5 and say like, this guy's Spatzer, or let me just punish him for making bad opening against me. So that's how it works. In those bullet games that I've I've played for like last couple of months. I used to play very interesting knight h6 move. My plan with the knight h6 is not just like to, just to look weird. I want to play e5, jump with this knight on g4 and play bishop c5. So pretty similar to what we previously seen. And in the only game played on a high level between two top guys in San Francisco back to 1990, Nick DeFermian played knight a6. Look at the game: knight h3, b5, knight f4, rook b8, and the rest of the game is not even important. They drew in couple of moves, and that's why I'm telling you, because Anthony Miles went with this very weird knight h3, knight f4, and this guy played rook b8 and b5. He went with e4, threatening on h5, g6, knight a3, threatening on b5, c6, b3, knight h6, and they made a draw after bishop b2. Such a weird position, weird game, and just like I told you, I have a feeling that this was prearranged draw by tons of very weird moves. That's why I'm suggesting, if anyone ever plays h4, and there are guys who do that, play e5. In case of c4, you always should go with e5, transposing into a variation of the English defense, where you just go with an early h5 and h4. Position looks pretty tempting. It is especially good because if they ever now play h4, you will easily have like bishop c5, for example, bishop g2, knight c6, and when they play like, I don't know, like knight c3 or whatever, you just have plenty of possibilities to go with this knight on h6 to g4 and f5 to control d4. So when they play e3 to play knight e2 and d4, you have d6, knight g on e2, you have a6. If they ever do d4, bishop a7, if they ever do castles, you can do lots of stuff. You can pressure pawn on d4 with knight f5. I like that one. You can play bishop g4 using the similar type of idea with the knight f5 afterwards. I apologize. Pressuring the knight on d4. You can also use g5 involving your queen and h4 ideas afterwards in the attack. Reminds me on Serbian and Spanish pattern against the English defense, which is very successful lately in practice against the English defense. So they just have to go with knight f3 or bishop g2, but there are like few guys who did h3 against me. You just play d5, you take space, knight f3, knight c6, and now that pawn on h3 could turn out as some sort of weakness. After d4, bishop f5, bishop g2, knight f6, castles. A really surprising idea, reminds me of some Dutch positions, happens here. So knight jumps onto e4, right into the center of the board. You will line up and get this diagonal queen d7, bishop f5, and you want to go with f6 and g5, organizing a very similar type of kingside action and attack like against the dragon positions. I played like twice games like this: knight bd2, queen d7, king h2, and long castles. Guys, don't forget, whenever I suggest you something, I always try that worst case scenario at least in bullet games. I'm not showing you any kind of these weird stuff just like that. I always need to make sure that it could be practically good. Speaking of desperation, just like I told you, percentage of my wins in lines with g3 and h5 is really high. And simply we come to the point where they can only play two moves. When I play against guys in bullet, they mainly play bishop g2 because they pre-move g3 and bishop g2. Players who usually don't make this kind of pre-moves, they play knight f3, hoping that they will stop and prevent h4 idea by black. Well, will they do that? No. Of course we go with h4. But this is just my suggestion for you. Engine would always say play d5 or knight f6 or do something else. I won't say that. If we go for some sort of risky position, if we want to go with something wild, with something crazy, then let it be this way and let's have some fun. So they have two reactions. They can take by knight or by pawn. If they take by pawn, you can now play weird type of Sicilian or English defense for them. So you play c5. What's the point? In which Sicilian white has pawns on the h file? First of all, they're up a pawn, but having a pawns like this means nothing to them. I believe you would agree with me. Second thing, I have an open h file, so that actually makes considerably more difficult task for white to make short castle and to put the king into safety there. Whoever plays e4, I don't want to go more than this. You just have a nice Sicilian game with this weird pawns on the h file. People like to play d4 in bullet chess because they just like to play with these pieces somehow. I don't know, just trying to do something active or something confusing, whatever. Take it whatever you like. Knight c6, queen a4, and of course that the engine would say play e5 or knight f6 or d5, but I have my own specialty, it's b5. You now threaten this queen takes b5, rook b8, and now they have two options. If they go with queen a4, with a tempi, only move is queen a3 and play e5. All of a sudden, I'm opening up my bishop on f8, and all of a sudden I'm threatening lots of discovery threats by rook b4 and bishop on f8. c3, e4, knight g5. I played a beautiful game, rook b6. I very much like this point. You'll see the point of this move. When they play queen a4, I had the d5. So rook b6 was what for? To defend this knight on c6, so I can play d5. I'm threatening now to take on h4. I want to probably get rid of this knight. Actually, I'm threatening rook h4. That's the first and probably foremost, like the most important threat by black here. And in case of queen d5, rook b8, they put the queen back on d3, which is way more logical. You just go with knight f6 and you have a nice compensation. I always get back to these weird pawns on the h file. Guys like to solve this problem with bishop g5. But bishop g5 is impossible here because of rook b2. That's why I sacked this pawn with b5. b5 is very creative idea if you like tactics, if you like to play crazy chess, and most of my subs and the guys who watch these videos like. So you will enjoy in b5 positions very much. And finally, if they just try to play English, I don't think that the English players will play like this because whoever plays English defense, he is not going to take on h4 just like that and create this weird and possibly weak pawn structure. After knight c3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, I very much like idea of d6, d3, and everything looks like typical English. Looks like they're about to solve the problem, but the killer idea and the plan by black. Bishop g4 followed by queen d7, bishop h3 to launch the attack and to make long castles, but at the same time you have knight h6, knight f5 capturing that pawn eventually on a4, on h4, and probably having or creating like a strong mating attack by black. In case they take by knight, because probably most of you would say like, what is this guy talking about? I mean, who would take by pawn? What's the problem to take by knight? You can always play e5 and play normal type of game. When they bring the knight back into the center, e4, and you play some sort of Alekhine's defense wild variation. So for all of you who wonder, what is this? Alekhine's defense wild variation happens like e4 knight f6, e5 knight e5, c4 knight b6, c5 knight e5, knight c3, and d takes c3. We can discuss this variation a lot more, but what's the difference between previous position and this one? Imagine that black already had g6 at this point. That's the only difference. Unlike that position here, it's black's turn and black should either go with bishop g7 or d6. It's nothing that special. That tempi, so I'm talking about g3, h5, knight f3, h4, knight h4, e5, knight f3, e4, knight e4, c5, knight b3, c4, knight e4, knight c6, and when they take it, you take to have like both of your bishops open. That tempi is not going to bring them so much happiness and luck. It's nothing that special. You just play knight f6, you never react there, and after knight c3, play bishop b4, bishop g2. Nice move is bishop h3, so you can maybe eventually line up your heavy pieces on the h file and eventually go after the h2 pawn. Although all these lectures of mine wouldn't be that crazy if I don't show you something really crazy here. Boom, rook takes h4. I very much like this move. I like these type of creative ideas in chess, and I really have to say that I enjoy in this kind of exchange sacrifices. They have to take, you play e5, and nothing can stop queen h4. People like to play d4 here, which is, in my opinion, the best move, but those who play like bishop g2 take on h4, d3, knight f6, and if they play queen d2, to play queen g5, to trade the queens off, because if they manage to do that, then we're just lost, because for all of you who are just beginners or not familiar enough with the elementary concepts of chess, those who are materially up, they should exchange pieces. Although we play bishop c5, and I kind of prevent queen g5, and in case of e3, now I'm kind of imprisoning both of these pieces, bishop of c1 and queen on d2, and I'm playing d5, where I claim that we have a pretty nice compensation, even though we're down in exchange. In case of knight c3, knight g4, straight away. In case of knight e4, you play d5, knight g3, bishop c5, e3, knight f6, to play bishop g4, knight c6, he can't play bishop g4 because of bishop f3 immediately, bishop e6, castles, due to queen a4, d4, and possibly, possibly chance of dragging most of our minor pieces onto the queen side. I believe that our game could be taken as very interesting one here. Once again, if you analyze all these variations on engines, engines would probably say what is much better. Sometimes even winning, but don't pay too much attention on that, because you anyways play on kind of creativity, some initiative, attacking type of, like chess, and this is what I like about these games. In case they play rook f1, you play bishop c5, knight e4, bishop e6, e3 is not good because you just take on e3 and you have nice position. In case they play h3, which certainly presents like the best variation for them, you take on e3 and they can hardly make development and complete their game, even though they're up in exchange, and we just have certain dose of counter chances here. Of course, there are like plenty of other ways to go there. You don't have to do this and to play like this if you don't want to. Instead of that, you can play like c6 and play d5, because queen d2 never works because of bishop c5, and they always have to lock this queen and bishop down. So then you just play d5, bishop e6, I don't know, this knight goes to d7 or a6, c5, and you just have maybe even better compensation than in previously shown line. After e5, lots of guys do like a pre-move of bishop g4, queen takes h4, d3, knight f6, and I already showed you this is nothing for them. Those who do d3 immediately, you take on h4, knight d2, to be able to develop this knight on f3, and this way just to build some sort of to solidify simply their position, bringing that knight on f3. So we play d5, getting the center, queen h5, defending pawn on e5 and defending queen, a3, knight c6, knight f6, and on h4, a very interesting move for black that is going to bring you certain dose of compensation. It's queen f5. This queen on f5 does a good job. You threaten knight g4 followed by e4. You want to play bishop d7 or bishop e6, but I prefer bishop d7 because of some knight g5 ideas. And long castle. Black looks really good there, or at least promising. People mostly play d4. I take on h4, they take on e5, and they believe position could be considered normal. No, it's not. Because if you play knight c3, I'll play bishop c5, e3. I'll take on, for example, e5 if I have nothing better than this. But I can also take immediately on e5 because they can play e3 because of some bishop b4, bishop d6, bishop g4 ideas, taking advantage of the light squares. So they probably have to play e3, knight e5, bishop g2, knight f6, knight c3, d5. Very interesting line, queen d4, trying to oppose the queen and exchange pieces, queen f4, bishop d6, queen f3, knight h2, queen e2, bishop g4. What a devastating game by myself. I played it against an IM from Algeria. The guy played queen b5 here. I played king f8, and after bishop d2 I played rook e8. How nicely I gathered all these pieces into the center and prepared myself for the attack. I analyzed afterwards and realized that he wasn't supposed to give check, but even if queen d3, I would play long castle probably. That's why he went with check on b5. But here, you know what, I kind of prefer my position like zillions of time more than white's game. Who would like to play this type of position with white? Look at this. It looks terrible, you have to admit. And finally, what happens in like the biggest number of my games. After my favorite wing attack, h5, most of players just do a pre-move of bishop g2, and even if they don't do a pre-move, most of players just play like this. I play h4, and people like to do knight f3 here. It's bad, and I don't want to discuss that. If c4, it's just an English opening we mentioned a couple of times during this lecture. If d4, you just play d5, and once again, who plays d4 type of positions and kind of Catalan type of games would like to allow h5 and h4. Usually any h5 should be met by h3 or h4, or knight f3 to even stop pushing that pawn on h4. What my point is here is that if we already managed to push our pawn up to h4, our position looks promising, looks creative, looks interesting, looks pretty aggressive, and they don't like it. They don't like to play like that. G takes h4 never scares me. Worst case scenario, I can always take by rook, but knight c6, knight f3, bishop g4, and I have plenty of possibilities. Queen d7, bishop h3, queen d7, long castles, queen d7, f6, e5, knight f6, knight e4, knight h6, knight f5, g6, bishop g7, e6, bishop e7, do whatever you like. Position just looks promising. Lots of guys did against me g takes h4. I have to say that in the beginning I had some difficulties. I even lost a game, I believe, yesterday against one GM. He took on h4, and I decided to take by rook. Sometimes I feel like, most of the times I feel like playing the best move e5, but for some reason I played rook h4, and he managed to outplay me very nicely. You should be going with e5, threatening to capture an h4 by queen, right? So in case of knight f3, what majority of players do, e4, knight g5, threatening on e4, we just go with d5. They just break the center with d3, and now we go with the move f6. I used to take on h4 by rook and go into some weird type of games. It's nothing. Better is f6. They have to play knight h3. We take, they take, we take, and they have problems. h5 is ours. Look at development of these pieces. I mean, looks terribly that it actually went an opening itself terribly wrong for white. So the guy played bishop, if they play bishop e6, knight e7, they take, you take by rook, they have to bring it back and you play knight bc6. I always say, if you don't know how to judge the position, look at the pawn structure. So we have two pawn islands. Well, they have three pawn islands. Second thing, look at the activity of the pieces. Look at the safety of the king. Our king is way better. I'm going to play like queen d6. I don't know, somehow shut off this bishop with f5 and play long castle. They have problems here. In case of d3, I apologize, queen takes h4, knight f3, queen g4, rook g1, knight c6. I played plenty of games like this. it really looks weird to play with this wing pawn on h2 that looks undefended, with the rook on g1 without the possibility to castle. Position is unclear, but basically if I have to choose the side, definitely I would choose the black side, sorry. And finally, if they play e5, and that's what once again majority of players do, they play like this, bishop c5 threatening on f2, they have to play e3 and you play queen g5. What's so special about this queen g5 move? You threaten this bishop, and when they play like bishop f3, we have nice trick, rook h2, threatening to take this knight and to win the rook. In case they play queen f3, you just play knight c6, queen g3, and a very simple positional approach here. Don't take on g3, looking like, okay, I'm black, I should equalize the game, not dangerous for me. No, take on e5 and remain better. Why? Because they have three pawn islands. Well, we have only two. Pawn on h2 is weak. Pawns on f2 and a3 potentially weak. We were even ahead in terms of a slightly better development, so they have lots of problems. And finally, to those who play knight f3, and there are like lots of guys who do that, I just want to give you a very interesting path. So you play h3, bishop f1, and here I played both, d5 and c5. Both of these moves are fine, but I do prefer d5. And when they play d4, that's what everybody would do. If they don't do that, you always just go with knight c6 and take center with e5. They just go with d4. You play bishop f5. What's so special about this bishop f5 move? First of all, consider that our pawn on h3 doesn't give them an easy kingside development. That's why most of these guys try to solve this problem with e3 and bishop e2 or bishop d3. I'll show you development for you. But those who play bishop f4, and there are like lots of guys who do that, you play seemingly very logical. And when they play e3, believe it or not, they're lost. You play f6 and play g5, and bishop is about to be lost. So that's why they have to play e3 to be able to develop the light square bishop to d3 or a2. You play e6, bishop d3, and you play knight c6. Lots of guys, when I play against them, don't understand the concept of knight c6. No, I don't want to take the center because my king can be taken as also kind of exposed piece. So I want to go with queen f6. So what's my point? I want to play bishop g4. And look how I won a couple of games. People play queen e2, I play bishop g4, and they all think they just defend themselves properly. No, e5. And now you see the point of having the knight, because they can't stop fork. If they take, I just take by knight and win the knight on f3. One guy took against f5, took on f5 against me. I took by queen, and look at the game and the way I outplay him. The guy played knight b2, knight f6. By the way, once again, the guy was an IM, a pretty good IM, 2450 FIDE. This was Blitz game, played on 3 minutes. So b3, g5, bishop b2, long castles. And he was supposed to play a3. You'll understand why, but I believe that after a3, g4, and knight e4, I would still remain better chances. He played c4, which immediately took advantage of. I kicked that knight away with g4. I played bishop b4, and slowly but surely, you just realize what my intention with the bishop b4 is. To give up this bishop in a pretty closed position and to remain two knights. After a3, bishop d2, queen d2, d takes c4. Initially, when I took on c4, I wanted to play knight e5, but then I realized that if I play knight e5, he's just going to oppose that with queen e2. I'm still much better, but it didn't see how to continue, and I'm pretty sure that he's threatening to take on e5. So I played knight e4, which is also very logical, and played a very nice move, rook h to g8. Why? First of all, I'm, removing that rook from d5 possibilities and potential danger by this bishop on b2. But I basically did rook g8 because of another thing, because of f3. That's exactly what he did. And when he captured, he probably should have captured by queen and rook, but if he takes by rook, of course that I would keep the advantage here and threaten this queen on e2. If he takes by queen, I wish I could do knight d2 in this position, but I'm not sure. I mean, I can probably take it I can probably and play knight a5. Position is like so much better because of too many weaknesses. This guy decided to take by knight and to make some threats, such as knight e5 or so. Boom, rook takes g3. This is the point of my rook g8. That's why I put a rook on the g file, and this is how I wanted to crush his kingside defense. I captured by knight. I realized during the game that in the worst case scenario, I had a chance to at least take like 2 pawns for the piece and weak king. But after rook g8, king h2, I captured, played rook g2, and played very nice move, kind of paralyzing for him. Queen e4. The guy immediately resigned because he couldn't get rid of taking on b2. He couldn't move the knight, couldn't move the queen because it's kind of cope for defending this knight on f3. The only piece that could be moved here is the rook, but he just realized that sooner or later this is like, okay, I'm threatening rook g3. This was a matter of time. When is he going to lose this game, even materially, even positionally, whatever? And he just resigned. Hope that you enjoyed this wing attack, and hopefully I'm going to from now on see like this h5 move spreading like crazy in your games, and you're just fighting this kingside fianchetto with my crazy wing approach. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you soon. Bye bye.